Good morning. I'm with Max Barford this morning. Welcome, Max. Good to see you. Max is the founder of Max Barford and Co., a firm of solicitors based here in Tunbridge Wells. And Max, you set the business up in, I have to go back to 1977, I believe. That's set that up, which is a long time ago. And more recently, Max Barford and Co. is part of Barford Crestwell Solicitors now over the last 3 years, or maybe
Around about that.
Is that about right?
Yeah.
And I'm in a very privileged position to be able to interview you, Max, this morning, because I know that retirement looms up on the horizon for you. And what I'd very much like to do is just ask you a few questions that can just putting in my mic piece, which has been advised by the director of this interview. So, Max, if you can, I'm looking on extracting from you some nuggets of wisdom from your experience that could help people who sadly might be going through this process, who are watching us and now, who are going through a process of considering separation and divorce. Can you give us a few hints and tips that they should look at, that they should be aware of from your experience at this stage?
Yes, I certainly can.
Thank you.
From my experience, people who are parting and they have decided that their marriage is either over or may well be coming to an end, have to be very careful that they don't inflame the situation by getting involved in debates and arguments over how the money and the children are managed. So I think as a point of reference, there's never any harm in both parties seeking sound legal advice from a family lawyer. Unfortunately, even when people want to remain on good terms, it's very easy to get confused over what the law may be or what might be fair. And so you need to start off from a sound base of understanding precisely what your rights are and what the options are. Because there are a number of options. And even though you see a lawyer, it doesn't mean to say you're locked into the legal process from the beginning. There are other issues such as, do you see a mediator? Do you see a collaborative lawyer? Do you need to instruct a solicitor straight away to start proceedings because the other person's paying you no money, you're the wife with children and you're getting no money, or you're a husband who's been left and you're bewildered as to why, and therefore you need to get to grips with your own situation. There are many, many reasons why marriages come to an end, but the courts adopt an objective of a fair outcome, and it's achieving a fair outcome that presents quite often some difficulty because what's fair to one person may not appear to be fair to the other.
So it's quite a subjective thing when you say a fair outcome in terms of really what that means.
Yes. I mean, a husband may think that's fair for him.
Yes.
A wife may think that's not fair, and that's fair. What's fair for me is much, much more. And so it's always going to be a question of a balanced and sensible solution. But the starting point is to know in financial terms what everyone's worth. And in terms of children, it's best to keep the children out of the processes and the arguments if that's at all possible. And so there's no harm in, even if the issue is over children, in seeing a lawyer in that regard as well. But there are many ways of helping people through the process in deciding how best to manage their breakup, so far as the children are concerned.
And how important is it in this process for the lawyer on one side to talk to the lawyer on the other side? Do you communicate closely? And is that a benefit to both parties?
It depends on the stage of the process. In the initial stages, there is absolutely no reason why the lawyers cannot talk to one another. lawyers often will be cautious because they will be worried that they need to understand their client's full position. So they won't want to just talk off the shoulder, assuming a situation to be, they'll want to check it out. And so they may want to know what the other person wants or what their financial position is and what their issues are over the children. So it has to be dealt with on a basis where you're looking at and examining things properly. But there's absolutely no reason why lawyers can't talk to one another and communicate and try and negotiate an outcome.
Is it something that should be encouraged? Is there a trend? Are there any trends that you've seen over the last 10, 20 years where lawyers communicate closely or they don't communicate as closely as they should?
I think over the last 20, 30 years, the change that has taken place is that the courts are no longer as accessible as they were. Many courts have shut down, and therefore there are compelling reasons why lawyers should communicate with one another, compelling reasons why mediation should be considered, and indeed the government considers that a priority. But there are lots of processes. I mean, collaborative law, the lawyers work with one another to try and achieve an outcome. And in fact, if they can't achieve an outcome, if they can't get a successful result for the clients, then it then has to go to other lawyers to conduct the court process.
Sounds expensive.
Anything involving protracted arguments and intransigence will result in legal costs, extending and extending. People becoming entrenched in their views, arguing over what they have and what they haven't, and not being, I mean, the principal thing to be borne in mind is transparency. You need, however high the feelings are running, people need to be transparent about their financial position, about what they want in relation to children. It needs to be out in the open. Secrecy and trying to achieve some result that may not be fair because you're not owning up to what you really own or what you really want just adds another dimension. And in fact, it feeds lawyers. Lawyers like me have had the opportunity over the years of successfully getting to the root of people's finances, and opening that up has not always been beneficial to the person at the other end of it.
So that's been your philosophy through your career.
Settle if you can,
Yeah.
sensibly, but if the other person makes it very difficult, either for their wife or husband, or is reluctant to be open about their finances, or is just impossibly difficult over trying to achieve a sensible settlement, then that is food, meat and drink to me.
Okay. Or was.
Was, yeah.
But that's good advice, yeah.
But the current state of the law, with the courts wanting, they don't want the volume of cases coming through. They want to see people negotiating and reaching a sensible arrangement between them. There isn't any golden rule as to what's an automatic outcome. Some people think, well, there's an automatic outcome of 50-50. That's not the case.
Okay, that's interesting. And I guess that the quicker they can arrive at some sort of agreement, settlement, it does help on the cost issue, doesn't it, as well? To keep time cut, make things time efficient.
Yeah, but the one thing has to be balanced against the other. Rushing to an agreed settlement in the absence of finding out proper information is not satisfactory.
No.
And if people try and rush into a settlement and it turns out afterwards that it's been on the wrong basis, then it's difficult and costly to untangle, or it may not be possible to untangle. So it's a balanced view that people must adopt when they go into it, and obviously when they go in and feelings are high, having the opportunity of having your mind clear and sensible to make those decisions is so difficult.
Yes, I mean that's the challenge, isn't it? It's how to control the emotional side of people's feelings, because obviously, as you say, in that situation, people are on a different emotional plane, and when it comes to rational thinking, you obviously, as a solicitor, have to control that.
You have to manage it.
And manage it, yes.
And what you mustn't do is rush people when they're not ready. Or they are emotionally driven to make decisions that are not in their best interests.
And within the market as it is today, you've obviously seen changes, enormous changes, through your career. Now we're in the digital age, with social media playing probably quite a big role in the way people are making decisions. How do you see that affecting family lawyers at this, in this marketplace today? What are the challenges?
I think the challenges will be that they need to do so much more online. Divorces need to be online, and so much more could be dealt with by direct access to the courts, and that's happening. That is happening. But unfortunately, the processes which everyone thought would be modernised, it just hasn't happened as quickly as it should have done. And so the divorce process that we're working on stems from 1969 and needs to be modernised. The financial processes are still, they go back to 1970. Obviously there have been changes in the law since then. There's been some modernisation with it's no longer new procedure for making sure that the cases are managed properly, but there's still a lot of scope for modernisation and improvements, not only to make it quicker and faster, but to make it easier for people to understand their position.
Yeah.
But I think this will evolve. It's just happening at a slow pace.
Which is a shame.
Yeah. So you have to take the law as you find it at the moment, and whatever one thinks about the processes, and whether you agree or disagree with it, is what we have, and it's what you have to work with.
That's what you have to work with, okay.
And you have to bear in mind, even if you go to mediation, the mediation process won't end in a financial situation. It won't end the procedures, because you still will need the court to agree and approve the order. As far as children are concerned, then you can come to arrangements, and you can either come to arrangements direct. The court isn't going to impose orders. There's no such thing as custody and access anymore. It's just simply child arrangements. So people can come to their own solutions. And the court is there as a major backstop if all else fails.
Is that actually a good arrangement?
I think
What do you think?
I think it's proved, with the cutbacks that have taken place on legal aid, and the fact that so many legal aid certificates have been granted to people with problems in relation to children, and the fact that that doesn't seem to have caused the enormous uproar that we all forecast. I think there is some the rules that have changed, and the way that people are approaching things. I think it has resulted in a more realistic approach.
And
for the majority of people, not everyone.
Sure. And over the last, say, 10 years, have you seen any other trends that have come into this sort of divorce and separation situation? Are there, what percentage of the married population are looking at separation divorce? I mean, are you?
Well, what I think has changed more has been people's reluctance to marry, because they're concerned, especially if one of them has a large amount of money. They are therefore worried about the impact that divorce might have. So there is this movement towards pre-nups, and we are finding more and more people looking at prenuptials. But in terms of people divorcing, perhaps there are some people where times have been hard, who are slower to bring a hopeless marriage to an end, one where they're so unhappy, simply because the financial consequences of that are so awesome that they can't bring themselves to pull the plug.
And does a solicitor have to draw up a prenup? Is that a requirement?
Prenups are not a standard document in this country as they are in many others. So prenups do carry a considerable amount of responsibility, and they do require full advice. They can't be guaranteed to be fully effective still. They have they carry much more weight than they used to. But for it really to hold up, you really do need a lawyer to deal with it, and you need proper advice from both sides.
I can imagine. The wording
needs
read
to be
very carefully.
And the trouble is, like any document, you can't cover every eventuality. So there's always the potential for an issue to arise that might not have been covered. But they are much more effective than they used to be.
An interesting trend that you've experienced. Is there anything else that you want to leave us with, Max, and for the benefit of someone watching that's finding this of great interest? Is there anything you want to leave us with?
Yes, I think that so far as the divorce process is concerned, the actual pure divorce is quite simple, and there are divorce centres. So if you just want to end your marriage, the system now, you can go online if you want to, but it's a much simpler system for the majority of people. If you really are worried about what you might do, go and see a lawyer. Go and see a family lawyer. Get some idea of where you might stand. Okay?
It's good advice, Max. Thank you very much for your time this morning.
A pleasure.
And all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Pleasure.